No?
Okay, I'll stop figuring it.
Right, 6 o'clock, first order of business is the pledge to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Why is the camera moving?
Right. Okay, review and approve the minutes of June 5th.
So moved.
Wow, you guys are gonna have a majority.
So motion and a
I'll do that, sir.
second to approve.
Second.
That's scary. Any discussion?
You do need roll call. Lindsay, yes. Kelsey, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, so, right, all those in favor, Lindsay,
Yes.
Kelsey? It's a yes from her and a yes from myself. Members' reports, we'll start with Lindsay.
The only thing I have is, I know that Richard put something out about the changes for fishing for this year for the Kennebec and Norridgewock. No longer can you use live bait worms, apparently. So just make sure that people you're not reading through the book each year. That's something that's brand new for this year. So just keep that in mind if you're down to Usula. And the other thing too, to bring up is the boat launch is not a public swimming area. When boats come in, like, please get your children out of the way so that you don't get hit with boats. That would be, it's dangerous, it's not where you're supposed to be, and we've had it now twice when trying to get in and out with a boat and you can't because there's a bunch of people just like swimming there, not moving out of the way. So.
Thank you. Kelsey, anything?
I don't have anything.
Okay, perfect, and nothing from me, so we'll move right into the town manager's report.
Last week's election was average-ish turnout for the similar election. We ended up with 204. The last similar election was 238. The office will be closed on Friday in lieu of today. Will also be closed the 4th and the 5th of July. The Riverview Cemetery work on Upper Main Street, that contractor came in and half a dozen volunteers from across the state to repair some stones, clean stones, level stones. We're compiling a bunch of pictures. We're going to include it in the next newsletter, but overall, it was a really good project to get started up there, and that's what the cemetery committee was looking for. So Kathy Hopkins was top notch in terms of spearheading that and being there all the time. And then the rest of the cemetery committee over the course of the week volunteered their time respectively. As a result of that, the main old cemetery association, MOCA, has now relocated their summer meeting to here in town. So that will be hosted by the Historical Society at the Grange, where they'll have their regular business meeting, and then they'll do a tour of the cemetery and the work that we did, as well as presentations, programming about Norridgewock. That'll be on July 27th. So that's a good opportunity here for town, for both the historical and the Grange and the cemetery committee. All good things. They're hoping that they can drum up some volunteer support for next year. Planning board meeting, they will next meet on July the 11th. The start of the meeting will be a public hearing followed by a regular meeting to review Waste Management's proposed leachate PFAS treatment facility. So they will be treating leachate to remove PFAS on site with that proposal. And so they will be holding their public hearing with the butters that night, followed by their start of their review. They have held escrow. All notices have been sent. And they have retained an attorney to represent the interests of the board through the application. So ribbon cutting, that was back on the 8th for the rail trail. That was, I think, an overall positive experience with the exception of getting back to the car. We had good press coverage. We had support from the Chamber of Commerce, and overall, I think it was really nice for the town. TIF Advisory Committee is scheduled to meet Tuesday. I don't have an agenda from the chair, so I'm imagining that's going to get pushed until at least July. Waste management fees came in earlier this week, 127,000. We're up about 70,000 year to date over last year. 30-day notices, that is for unpaid 2023 real estate taxes. Those are going out on June the 27th. So folks have had more than 30 days since the courtesy notice. For this notice, this will trigger certified mail fees. Right now, I've got 145 accounts about that have not been paid. And then as a result of that notice, anything unpaid will go to lien on July 31st. Summer reading program is started at the library. You can find out information norridgewock.org/library, Facebook page. or stop on into the library. That is being paid for through the Dollar General Literacy Grant, we accepted at the last meeting. And so, I mean, it's a pricey program that has been paid for with public support, with private support, sorry. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how that works. They had pretty good enrollment numbers just in the first couple of days. Trustees will meet next Thursday at 3. Kayak and paddleboard rental unit, we've been waiting on that. They had targeted May 1st. We got delayed because I asked them to delay it because of what we saw last May. Then they ended up with installation/delivery issues with their contractors, so they extended that contract, as I told you at the last meeting. We thought it was gonna go in this Friday. It appears as though it's gonna go in the first of next week. Time will tell. The docks, sorry, they're gonna be in place next week. That, I updated that. The swim docks in the school park were supposed to go in last week too. The installation contractor got caught up. That's supposed to be in there on Friday, so that'll be the new rectangular swim area down off from the gazebo. And we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it will push people away from the boat launch, but I can tell you it's the river. It's not always the most attractive place to go swimming. So the boat parade, because we're not meeting next meeting, the boat parade is July the 6th, rain date's the 7th. That'll start at noon. More information online for that. The music series, we'll have that before we meet again. July 9th is Peyton Dawn. She's end of high school age singer from Fairfield. She plays quite a bit in the area with Geez Louise. That's a wrap. And the day before your next meeting, we will have Don Calizzi and Lee Stetson, and they are, he spent some time in Nashville, so a lot of country cover, but he can do some of that in between stuff too. So I think we've got 2 good performances to kick that off. And they've got the Parks Committee's working on like a punch card to get folks to come to 5 out of the 8 or things like that to be able to enter. Merch, because the sponsorship level is so strong this year, they want to be able to hand out stuff that promotes the community, not the parks, not Kusula Days, but town of Norridgewock. So we're picking up a few items there that will have the town seal on it, and try to get that out and generate some excitement. The goal there, because of the generosity, is that what we hand out will either represent sponsorship or the town, and everybody that comes will get it. So, you know, you're talking ordering in the hundreds, and they're all within the budget. So very good there. The request that you considered at the last meeting for use of the municipal parking lot on Main Street went without incident, to the best of my knowledge and that of the sheriff's office. The conditions were complied with. It was a little late, but we knew that was going to happen. So that was positive after that public discourse at the last meeting. The traffic lights here at the intersection at the bank, post office, those have presented a lot of issues in terms of timing, people not feeling like they're working, people not being pulled up to where they need to be because the intersection's not striped appropriately. Those issues have largely been worked out. Now we're just experiencing delays where people aren't used to because you're getting a designated left arrow coming off of Perkins Street and Bridge Street. So you used to go and you each cut the intersection off. Now you're going one to a time, and that's what's causing those backups. That is not going to change. So folks are going to have to be patient. And eventually, when it all gets striped out, I think your left turn delays going onto Bridge Street from Route 2 eastbound will get better as well. You're getting some folks I don't think that want to get up far enough to get the sensor in the road. And then the camera sensor up in the sky is being interfered with by power lines that cut through the intersection. So that's causing issues on that left turn lane. They are aware of all of that, and the contractor's been on site probably a dozen times in the last week to special trips on adjustments. In-town striping was done last week, and 2 pedestrian stanchions that we were able to get from DOT for free last year are placed downtown. And then the Father Isle Road and Sandy River Road project, we signed contract on that on Monday. That was Bedard Excavation out of South Paris. His expected start date is August 1st, but he may come a little bit earlier depending upon the job before us and whether or not everything's going to line up there. And then there's also an inclination to think that because of the contractor's schedule, there may be opportunity to book in a Wilder Hill Road project where we might not otherwise be able to do it and afford it. And so the engineer is going to give them a preview, this contractor a preview of it to get a price to see if it's something that's reasonable so that we could possibly get that done this year, all within the budget. But you know, if it's not a deal, then we'll end up just holding it, putting it up to bid with a 24 or 25 construction to leave it open for contractors to be determined. And we'll be hosting the Maine Rural Water Association Conference here tomorrow. In this room, I don't expect too many people, but Katie from Maine Laboratories on Main Street asked if we would be willing to offer the space. I said yes, and so that should be good exposure. We're members of the association, but she's providing a presentation on the work that she's doing as well, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, yeah, number 6, discussion action on June 19th, general warrant number 11.
I move to approve general warrant number 11 in the amount of $231,312.93.
Motion and a
Second.
second. Any discussion?
Appreciate it.
What was the Harris Computer Systems?
That's our software for tax assessing motor vehicles. It's our trio, is what we call it.
Is that every year?
Yeah, it's every year, and it goes up every year. It's up about 10%.
Oh,
Okay.
there you go.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, Lindsay,
Yes.
Kelsey? So yes, and a yes from me. Discussion action on June 19th, airport warrant number 6.
I move to approve airport warrant number 6 in the amount of $7,503.69.
So motion.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, Lindsay,
Yes.
Kelsey? So yes, and a yes from myself.
She's got a cat.
Discussion action on June 19th sewer commitment.
Move to approve the sewer commitment in the amount of $30,681.23.
It's a motion and a
Second.
second. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, Lindsay
Yes.
is a yes, Kelsey is a yes, and a yes from me. Public comment? Anything out there from the public? Mike, fire away.
No, but on that culvert down at the bottom of the hill, are we, if we would have to do something with that, can we, is there any of that money coming from the grant money from the federal government that we can slide that into, or is that,
Yes, yeah,
that would be in the scope?
any road work within our town limits would be eligible to use under that because it's in a watershed.
Yes. Because that's gonna probably have to be addressed this year. More than likely at some point, right? We determined that we're gonna try to address that this year.
No, we have not determined we're gonna try to address it this year.
Okay.
Depends on contract availabilities and materials and price.
But you, we did,
Money
I
isn't-
do not like Tony with Joe.
The money does not lapse. The road money doesn't lapse, so we've got the federal grant money that's come in that's designated for roads. And voters 2 or 3 years ago decided to fund the reserve account as opposed to just the roads budget. And that's
So
now,
we are, what I guess what I'm asking is, we don't have like a time window on the money that,
that's correct.
okay.
Right,
So we could, if it can go, we can push it. We want-
been that way for a while, so.
Over to the road, the road man, culvert, they thought Rodney found that it was collapsing on the,
Part of the
not
foot,
the opposite side of the river. Coming out of the field, the first 12 feet collapsed. Which culvert you talking? The big culvert right after Randy Brown's. Oh, that one, yeah. Yeah, there's a failure there, but it's not in the road base. So. You know, take a speed bump out.
And put that material down there on top. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Thank you for that. Like, anything on Chucky, you got something?
Okay, well, I don't know what I'm talking about, but back to Billy Walker's cemetery thing. I got reservations made out there too, but, I know that's something probably to do with water department more here, but. Oh, I don't know how I want to say this, I'm still banging around with nothing to do with the town, well, it is today, but. Folks selling them right away, but I'd take some off that if they would concur some of the cost of putting the water in there. I know that Todd says it couldn't do it, it had to be metered, but it never has been metered. And I would take some of the, I mean, we half-assed agreed on a price for that, but I haven't done it yet, but. Cause I know they're gonna be all, say, no, we can't do that, and it's not up to the town really. But all they're gonna do is put it back in there somehow, keep it from getting run into.
Yeah.
Because it never was needed, I don't know, did the town ever pay a minimum on that, or they just give that out of?
No, they did for a long time. They really, they did a lot for us. From the ball field to the cemeteries, we had everything and it was unmetered.
I know,
And I mean, they're kind of, you know, they're fixing, I mean, they're, you know,
but I mean,
pretty
you
fixed
could look,
income for them.
you could look at that like the town sand, I mean.
I think as a
I mean,
board,
give it free, I mean, they can say, they're gonna haul water away, but we like, you know, they raise a couple,
oh, it is.
I mean, they raise a couple $1,000 a year for the, instead of pedestrian sand here, but that's just, I mean, I don't know, that's just.
Okay, well, actually, I
I
just
would-
realized it's on our agenda, Chucky. So in like 2 seconds here, you
Oh.
will get
Okay.
what the board's gonna do with that.
Oh, no, okay.
I think I would have read this.
I'll withdraw my big.
Okay, right on. So anything else for public
Way
comment?
to read forward, man.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
I didn't see it on there. but
No,
that's just-
Let's skip over.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll dive into number 10, discussion update on land use violation.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so you have been provided with the updated junkyard tracker, and junkyard tracker is now just turning into land use tracker, if that's any more pleasurable. You can see where progress has been made, where it hasn't, where folks have been working with us. There's a block of folks at the bottom, half a dozen of them that have been responsive to the town's request. So the time, I think Matt asked that this be put on the agenda, so it's, if you have questions about specific issues, if you have concerns that maybe aren't on this list of different types, my suggestion would be that we try to keep it at a higher elevation of discussion and then allow staff to explore it. If you have concerns that maybe aren't on here.
Good, yeah.
Or if you have things to expound upon for various properties, let us know.
Yeah, and I would like to make this, you know, at least a monthly thing where we're coming back to this and touching on it, just so we can see, you know, where progress is being made and who is just not. I think in the end, it's about compliance, not about finding people. It's just some progress needs to be made on these
Yeah.
properties, especially if you're a habitual, you know, offender here. I think you know the system. So, yeah, I think just keeping on top of these. And thank you for putting this together for me on short notice.
So I do notice we have, like, there's one, and it's actually one that I'm thinking it doesn't have initial report date or notice violation date or like last site visit. It just says notice of violation drafted consultant attorney for a Depot Street. So what's the, doesn't seem like it's following like the same sort of format that some of the other ones are.
Oh,
Yeah,
And I'm only saying that because I noticed on a run the other day, the smell was like turn around because it turned my stomach so badly. And I know that, I don't even know if that is covered in this, but it was like rotting flesh and meat. It was really kind of horrific to smell.
so the documentation of initial report, we didn't really, the state paperwork's been a struggle historically. So that hasn't never been formally documented. What we experienced at this property is, it's 52 Depot Street, number 4, Salami Truck. Odor, we don't regulate largely, you know, it's not a commercial operation by our ordinances. So then it's junkyard and what is actually work attributed and what isn't, they walk a very fine line. And then the only other request that we have is a right of way obstruction. So
Yeah, you can't run on that side when you're going with the flow of traffic. You cannot, there's actually.
that's why you're missing things there, is because this started as a junkyard tractor. And junkyard is skirted largely. You know, I occasionally get piles of metal, but it's more right of way obstruction that's enforceable from town perspective than anything.
Right.
So usually they're responsive. It gets better and then it goes right back to where it was.
So we have no ordinance, nothing that can protect like really like bad smells. Like, I mean, like
so it's.
waste management is great, but if anyone says they smell something, they're like, if they're in
Well,
the.
they're commercial, so they have
Yeah.
some stipulations on them, and those are put on by the state, I believe, and not us.
So we will permit based upon prospective odor, like what it might be and how you can mitigate that. But how does one measure odor?
Yeah, but,
right?
If it makes you
Sticks
gag
to
when you
one
walk by, it
person,
should be
It's,
prohibited.
And so the odor emissions that waste management is regulated under through DEP is only the nature of their business, it's not all commercial. It's just the nature of their business that requires that
you don't do anything to a farm when they spread.
You know, but like
You're-
all the places that grow
that's-
marijuana, like aren't there regulations with that smell being like put out, like you're not supposed to.
I think there actually might be.
Yeah, I think,
I
like-
think there might be, but there again,
Yeah.
it's specific, so I don't
That's
know.
technically farming agriculture as well, but
I don't know if they're a dog kennel, if they're a dog, I don't wanna misspeak.
Yeah, there are multiple kennels on property.
Certainly something that we would want to be looking at for when we future approve dog facilities. Whether we,
We don't have that
facility that my
ability.
dog
Right,
goes
you
to
have no way-
doesn't state that there's
right.
way more dogs there.
right, I guess it would only be by complaint, you'd have to have people.
It's not, the property owners in question are very familiar with the law. And while it might not be the spirit of the law, it is in compliance with state statute.
Right.
Yeah, so just don't walk on Depot
you
Street.
wanna talk about the right of way down the street,
No,
New Balance is on.
Yeah, that's, yeah,
So you, there, he's got ammunition there.
that's right, and so, and this,
And that's,
all of these have their own little story that go with them. And everybody's unique, but it's, I mean, how do we make progress that's not, I don't have the vocabulary, I don't know. You don't wanna single these people out, I mean, publicly, but at the same time, you want progress to be made. I don't want people driving around saying, hey, you need to clean this stuff up.
I mean, it's just
But
that
at
now
the
that the
same
rail
time-
trail is going directly past there on that road, that is like a little piece of, it's more
It-
visible to
it
more
is,
people and so would be the odors that come there and things like that, so, you know, we have a lot more traffic and it's not a great look for the town, when people are like, what's Norridgewock like? I'd be like, well, it smells like death.
Yes, well, and it's just, right, it's,
I
right.
can actually take you for a ride because of other shit.
It is, but right, so I took a complaint the other day about the people from New Balance at lunch smoking cigarettes up there.
Yeah.
Because they're standing on the trail, and if you come through, you have to go through that, and but it's not town property, it's state property, so
Yeah,
I get all things that kind of fall
And
into
when does
holes.
that hurt?
Yeah, that's tough, that's tough, so again, we'll keep revisiting this list, and we'll make sure that
I mean,
some progress is being made.
that's worse than running off someone else's wife these days, smoking a cigarette.
That, it can be, and, okay, we're gonna just keep moving past this.
Jackie, I'm so glad you got your papers,
yeah.
man, I'm so glad you took papers.
so members of the public should only speak when recognized by the chair, and comments be directed to the chair. The town is not in the habit of engaging in litigation. Kelsey, do you have any comments on this?
Oh, shoot, at least it wasn't me this time.
No, I know I had a question about one of them on the list, who was kind of requesting, some time to get into compliance, and it's my understanding that they are maybe going to be granted that time, so that was my only question, but I think it's been answered.
Yeah, so that's at 12 and 14 River Road, and the notice of violation was sent. It's one of those instances where staff tried to be amicable, tried to be cooperative, work with you and not have to go through legal processes. And then it came back against the town necessarily where we didn't have the leverage. So, given that they had had such advance warning, notice, I'll say, and then the lack of compliance, I think that's where the, short notice came through, and then obviously there were obstacles, and then code reissued an extension of 45 days to 7/29/24. And I'm inclined to support that deadline there as being reasonable. If you don't have building permits just because you're in a difficult zone to deal with, I don't think that that's an excuse to come into violation with local ordinance.
No, so,
And just as a matter of record, they also have requested to meet with the planning board. The chair of the planning board has denied that request as a violation of due process and the site plan, and the Board of Appeals ordinance. Because if you're aggrieved by the code enforcement officer's determination, the select board, well, the planning board is your avenue, it's the Board of Appeals.
Who's that? Who's?
It's a 5-member board appointed every 5 years by the select board. The last time they met, I believe, was maybe with Audette's Recycling in order to grant variance, and before that, it had to do with mass gathering applications on their farm.
Yeah.
very inactive.
Yeah, I was gonna say, 'cause I don't,
No need a lot.
well, thankfully, I guess, right?
Okay, I'm comfortable with that, and again, thanks for putting it together, and we will certainly revisit. So moving forward, to number 11, discussion action on cemetery quitclaim deeds.
So what is this one here? It looks like, I move to release Keith Clark of, what is it? Lot number 267 in the cemetery known as Sunset View Cemetery.
So motion and a
Second,
second, any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, Lindsay is a yes,
Yes.
Kelsey is a yes, and a yes from me.
And the second would be, cemetery quitclaim deed releasing the southern half of 250 to Carey Homes and Kimberly Homes.
Say
So moved.
motion and a,
second,
any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, Lindsay is a
Yes.
yes, Kelsey's a yes, and a yes from me. See, number 12, discussion action on cemetery water.
So at the last meeting, you had a resident inquire about the installation or reinstallation maybe of water service at Sunset Cemetery on Route 2, Wild Hill Road. I reached out to the water district knowing that there was more history. It was, people were running it over and this and that. From their notes, it says that parts were stolen on and off. And that it was not metered until it was required that it be metered. In a similar way as, you know, the fire department's accounting of its approximate usage. And so then you had folks going out there and they were filling things for their pools and whatnot. And in 2015, it was shut off. It was shut off largely, from what we can see, by administration at the time. So there's a chance that we could be billed at the rate plus usage. There's also an opportunity maybe that we could get a seasonal rate, and I'm not really sure about the turn off, shut off or whatnot. I kind of thought about this and I ran it by Matt and I think I made his jaw drop, but you know, how do we do this in one cemetery, not the others? And how do you do it so that there's not theft of public services? Now, it sounds aggressive, but that's what it is, public goods and services. Somebody comes in and takes water and the town's paying for it, you're not entitled to it. You should be paying for that. So how do you do that? And so we looked at things like Mary and a half shell, the Virgin Mary in a shell, and that's what we presented without the Virgin Mary inside of it, some sort of a spigot. And I came up with like a bottle filling station, and that runs you about $3,000. It would be attractive. It would be one location. If you ran it over, you've got bigger problems. So I think my analysis is, I get it, I sympathize with the situation, but it's added cost to taxpayers. I think 2 milk jugs filled up at home and put them back in the car to go there isn't unreasonable. I don't wanna be out of touch because I don't have anybody that's there, but the other concern is then if you do it at Sunset, then do you do it at Old Oak and Riverview up on Upper Main Street, where does that stop? And I think that it could easily get away from you, even though it's only ever been at Sunset. So if you have any other great creative ideas as to how we can do this without allowing people to fill up massive containers, things like that, I am all ears to see if we can try to do something.
Somebody's always gonna try to screw the system.
Right.
I think it's just like what, we had discussed before, it's like investing in that, while it would be great, we have so many other cemeteries, we can't do this and not if another citizen comes, says they want another one. Yeah, and then what, like, I just think it's opening up, it'd be one thing if there were several others that did have water, but none of them have water, so why would we just pick one to give water to? Especially for the price tag, it just doesn't seem like it's a viable option for us right now, personally, that's kind of where I'm at.
And have we talked to the cemetery group? I mean,
No, we haven't asked the cemetery committee. What I was gonna do is try to get consensus here as to whether or not the board would support at what level, if there was support, and then look back to them to get their recommendation. You know, on a fixture, ultimately is what it would go back to, unless they just said, no, we're opposed to having it there.
I would love to know what they think. You know, I'm not against it, I'm not totally for it, I mean, I see where it's definitely useful, you know what I mean? But I can see where it could be of use, and they're not all in places that we could stick a
But
But that's
camera
another
on.
expense.
On some of them we
That's
could,
just-
but there's cemeteries that we couldn't put the camera on.
Yeah.
So, and again, is it just one cemetery? I can immediately see that they would want it in others, and I think that there's 3 that are actually by town water. That really would be our only option. If there's not town water by, we couldn't do anything. So I mean, you
I would be
know,
more apt to provide, jugs for someone to fill up water at home and bring there if they needed something like that. Like that would be, if you can't just do a milk jug, like, that's one thing. If someone says there is a hardship and they can't fill something up, they need something, let's give them a water receptacle, but like, we can't, because then how is that fair that someone who has a loved one buried in the cemetery that's near my house and they have to lug their water and like,
well,
Why are they getting a
that would
spigot
be
there?
Like that one would be eligible. I mean, like
Yeah.
there's 3 town cemeteries that have water by them. So I would say all of them would necessarily be eligible for water. I mean, if they're not
Well,
next to town water, they're
how
not.
many plants do you have in front of a grave though? That's the thing I was thinking, like,
I'm not sure. I'm not.
I don't think there's that much water that's needed, to be honest with you. Like,
Yeah, I would love to see what cemetery thought, unless the board feels really strongly against it. I mean, I'm open to it. Yeah, what do you think, Kelsey?
I got the vibe when they came, the gentleman who came to our meeting, like it's kind of like twofold. I'm looking at it. One, like they can't just put one there themselves. So they were looking for like approval to even go through that process. And would we help them with that and like oversee it? But then there is the overhead cost and like how is that being funded? So like I would love to kick it back to the cemetery committee just to see what they're thinking, tell them we're not sure how we would fund this. But like personally, I am in favor of putting water there. I just don't know about like the actual purchasing of the supply, but I feel like paying the water bill isn't as much of an issue for me as it is like the overall cost of the $3,000 or whatever we were decide on. I even remember him saying that like they would do some fundraising and that sort of thing. And I know like don't they get a budget? So I don't know if they requested any or if they could in the future, but that's what I would be curious about.
Right on. Do you want anything official, or do we want to just say that we'll kick it to cemeteries and see what they say?
I will put the consensus of the committee's pick cemetery.
Okay, sweet, thank you.
But you did have somebody in public comment reserve time on this item.
I did run that by Captain Hopkins. I don't know if she did, that's all I said. I said, you'll be hearing about it.
Chair of the cemetery.
Yeah,
And I don't see this town get $1.4 million out of waste management. Why that would be, because it's financial strain on them to do that.
and I really, I don't even think it is. I think it really just comes down to the receptacle piece. What I don't,
I mean, was there?
thank you for looking, but I don't want to spend $3,600 on something that is gonna get vandalized or broken
No,
or
but
is.
they've done that for forever, and I don't remember any big problems.
No, in my recollection, the ball fields, it was always vandals that would lock the handles up or break off the drinking fountain spigot, so it would just run, for 24 hours or the weekend if it wasn't checked. I would love to see all those things come back, it's just how do we do it and how do we make it so it's,
Does the
not.
water department any policy, I remember many years ago, I had drilled another well, and we were down 50 years ago.
And I think they're
We got water from down here, with a 500 gallon thing, and never got a bill out of them. And, because that's back in the days of Bill Chapman, right? He said, what do we owe you? He said, well, you got the farm and you're working and drilling a well, that's okay, Because now was then, this is now.
It is, and they've always been good with us.
So if someone's well is dry and they need water, is there any place that they can get water in town without going through an awful commotion?
Jesus, I don't know.
They come here,
What?
they come here and I go down and turn on my outside spigot and then have to shut it off because we've had people haul out truckloads. They hook up to it, go to town. Yeah.
bizarre, I mean, yeah, you just feel
Because
fortunate.
I
that
do
you
wanna
never
make
have
sure
to
that we
worry
have
about
access
water.
for people that need water.
It's kind of an essential thing,
Yeah,
I know just like the sand business, I guess so, then if people start helping it up to that and charging people and everything.
Yeah, and then since it's been under camera, it's been pretty good. We haven't had any issues there. So maybe, knowing that that water access is right here at the town office. For that, I don't think people even realize that they could come here. And
Maybe fill up
So
your
they
jugs
have an
here for the
option,
cemetery.
so they have an option to come here before they go to the cemetery?
That's, yeah.
potentially, I think that could be,
Sign out a
So why-
water jug from the town
why
office, fill it
doesn't-
up, bring it there, and then
Because
bring it
they
back,
want
or you'll
here,
get
if
charged
you're going
20
to the
bucks.
cemetery anyways, they're giving the water here.
right? So we'll have to see what cemetery says and we'll see where they land, like I said.
I ran, you know what you're talking about, I ran.
Good, yeah, and she's really good too, so, anything else on that from the board?
No, but you've lost your quorum. It's 6:35. So I just sent a message to see if she's gonna get back on.
What else we had? Oh, yeah, that.
Getting back from my recommendation is gonna be to adjourn, and we'll have to schedule a special select meeting.
How many
Yes,
more
we
issues
have
you
to.
got?
Pardon?
How many more things on the agenda?
We've got real estate acquisition, special
That's-
town meeting
yeah.
warrant,
Yeah, stuff that kind of is time sensitive, though, that has to get done.
like tomorrow.
Where'd she go? Like she was in a parked car.
Yeah, with that, right, room service, it's your, your T-Mobile.
Should we try calling, right?
You want to declare the meeting recessed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we will,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
I just don't think we can push that
It's
stuff off, 'cause isn't it time
6:38, we're
sensitive?
gonna recess this meeting.
Good night.
Dave, later, man.
Okay.
Kelsey, are you with us? Present, okay, present.
It's filling.
You can be your proxy.
Right.
Hi, can you hear me?
We
Yeah,
can.
Perfect, good.
Alright.
Yay!
Since we
Okay,
have you back,
thank you.
We'll
6:40, call back.
call it back to order and continue forward with number 13, discussion action on real estate acquisition.
Okay, so this in the past has been dealt with in executive session, for the purposes of expediency tonight. I will lay it before you. The select board, issued a counter offer on this property, map 28, lot 42-1, for a price of $45,000, contingent upon voter approval. July 30th, 2024. The owner of the property has accepted the offer and willing to go into purchase and sales within the next week. And so that would be part one of it, would be if you would still like to proceed to authorize me to enter into purchase and sales and for the price of 45, contingent upon voter approval. That will go on your July 30th meeting. So we'll start with that, and then the second part of that would then be the warrant article, and then the numbers that are contained within that article, and the source of funding that you would propose for taxpayers.
Okay, I'll take a motion on the first one, because I think,
So
yeah.
moved. Yep.
yeah, so there's a motion and a
Second,
second, to continue and
To authorize the town manager to enter into a purchase and sales agreement for the purchase of map 28, lot 42-1 for a price of $45,000, contingent upon voter approval at the July 30th, 2024 special town meeting.
any further discussion on this? Seeing
No.
none, all those in favor? Lindsay's a yes, Kelsey is,
yes,
and is a yes from myself. Second part,
And the second would be to warrant the article to show the town vote to authorize what we just discussed, but, you know, the actual execute the deed. And then the appropriation, so the purchase price not to exceed 45,000. But in the second part of that, I would recommend the language and to appropriate up to $50,000. So that would cover legal expenses that we would have in terms of all of that and not have to worry about where we were gonna pay for that. And then it's the funding source. So we have about 125,000 in rescue plan source funds. So you could do that, or you could talk about, well, you could add it to taxation, not ideal, probably. You could pull from surplus, which is where you're already looking to pull the sidewalk equipment, the road maintenance equipment from. So those are really the three major sources of funding. Add it to taxation, pull it from rescue plan, or pull it from surplus.
I would say rescue, right, because it kind of falls in line with a lot of the.
it does, I mean, it does, it's just whether we want to. I mean, rescue plan could be used for future improvements to that property. Right, pending what they were.
As could TIF due process. The
Right.
difficulty with acquiring the properties that kind of excluded TIF as a funding mechanism, just with the timing.
Right, and if we come right from surplus, we're able to still use anything we want on it, TIF or American Rescue Plan after the fact.
Yes.
I just hate to draw down the last of that American Rescue Plan, because it's not gonna replenish, it's the last of it. I think that reserve account is healthy enough to take care of both of the piece of equipment we need and absorb this problem.
If the piece of equipment is purchased out of that, you're still left with purely expense. That's saying we're gonna pay all of our bills and not have a dime of revenue come in. A little over 4.5 months, 4.25 months of operating. And then, so this would probably be slightly over 4 months of operating if you were to draw off from that.
And the min we're recommended for is
3 months.
3 months, so I mean, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Kelsey, how do you feel about that?
I feel good about that.
So the language on this motion would then be to appropriate and to purchase for 45,000. On such further terms and conditions as the select board deems to be in the best interest of the town, and to appropriate up to $50,000 from the unassigned fund balance surplus for the same.
So,
There is a motion and a
Second,
any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
yes.
So yes from Lindsay. Kelsey
yes,
is a yes and a yes from myself. Excellent.
I am assuming that you vote in favor of both of those, as well as the multi-use road maintenance equipment shows that you are in favor of recommending this article.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Kelsey, are you in favor
Yes.
of both? Okay, thank you. And then the only other thing that I need is a vote to sign the municipal officer's order for secret ballot referendum election.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second.
Second,
Any further discussion on that?
No.
Seeing all those in favor?
Yes.
Yes from Lindsay,
yes,
a yes from Kelsey, and a yes from myself. Okay. Number 15 here, discussion action on setting public hearing dates.
14.
Oh, 14, discussion action on special town meeting warrant.
So we, at the last meeting, approved the language of the amount not to exceed 175,000 from surplus to purchase the multi-use machine for sidewalk and road maintenance. That will be Article 3. Article 2 is to elect a select board member and overseer for the vacant term to expire 2025 town meeting. And then Article 4 will be this real estate acquisition that you just voted on there with the source of funding to be surplus as well. So there will be 4 articles on there. It'll be to elect a moderator, to elect a select board member, and then your 2 referendum questions that we've discussed here. I do need to modify the language on Article 4 to align with what you voted for tonight. But with that change, a motion to approve and sign the special town meeting warrant for July 30th, 24.
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion. And a
Second.
second, any further discussion?
no,
Seeing none, all those in favor? So yes from Lindsay,
yes,
yes from Kelsey, and a yes from myself. Now we'll go to number 15 there. You got it.
So you were required to hold a public hearing on your referendum questions. The public hearing must be 7 days before the vote. So July 30th, less 7 days. If you hold it on your next regular meeting date, that will satisfy statute. If you want to schedule it earlier, you can, but you have to have a quorum of the select board in order to hold that public hearing.
Yes, well, happy.
So a motion to set the public hearing date for July 17th.
So moved.
Oh,
second,
I'm not gonna be here.
Ronnie's gonna be.
You'll- There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in
No.
favor? So yes from Lindsay, it's a
yes,
yes from Kelsey, and a yes from myself. Other business. The board have other business?
Motion to add discussion action on MMA Legislative Policy Committee ballot to the agenda.
So moved.
And I'll second. Further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? It's everybody.
And then the next one is to vote for
Yeah.
Richfield District 3 representative to MMA LPC and sign the ballot.
So moved.
So a motion, I'll second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? So a yes from Lindsay,
yes,
yes from myself, and a yes from Kelsey.
I would recommend a motion to table. How you doing?
Yeah, I will. Yeah. I'll make a motion to table the executive session. Just due to time.
A lack of information.
so moved.
Yeah, here we go. There's a motion. and a
Or second, there we go,
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Yes from Lindsay, yes from me,
yes,
yes from Kelsey. And that just leaves adjournment.
Oh, man, that means I have to do pay. Okay, I move that we adjourn.
I'll second. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Lindsay is a yes, I'm a yes. Kelsey, thank you.
yeah,
All right,
thank you.
have a good evening.
It's for 10.